Hello, welcome back to Come Farm Flowers. My name is Georgie Newbury and I'm a flower farmer and florist here in Somerset in England. And today I'm going to make a table wreath. You could hang it on a door though, but it's coming up for Easter, so I thought you might like to make something out of your gardens that's similar. So what I've done is I've started off and I've made a really rough willow circle. You could use any twiggery pokery that you can find in the garden. You do not need to use willow, and you don't really need to super engineer it. If you can weave it around a bit, that's great, but equally you could tie it with string. Look, it's broken here, I don't care. I'm just making a solid base that I can then use to put my flowers and so on in. So I'm just going to weave it around really quickly. It is not a smarty pants business, unlike when we do our Christmas wreaths. That is a smarty pants business when we have perfect willow circles. But this is just some bits of twig, and I've made myself a little willow base. Can you see? Ready to go. So once you've got your basic wreath, just a basic twig shape, I'm going to dress it with, use a base with moss, because obviously we don't want to use floral foam anymore. I have been guilty of using floral foam in the past, but I will never use it again because it is about as green as using floristry with plastic bags. So I have literally gone into the garden and I have fetched moss out of my garden, and I'm going to lay the moss gently on to my willow circle and make a little round with it. It's quite dry weather, so I have soaked this moss. It's been in a pot with water since I picked it early this morning, and it is not particularly sphagnum moss. Florists tend to order moss in by the sackload, but I'm never quite sure where that comes from. So I prefer myself to use garden moss, which works just as well, and it's nice and damp because it's been soaked for so long. So when you've got a nice heap of moss on your little wreath, you see you can't see the twiggery bit anymore at all. It's a nice circle. I'm going to use raffia because that's what I've got, but you might use string or whatever you've got to hand, and I'm just going to tie the moss on quite strongly. You don't want it to, you want to engineer this a little bit. You don't want it to fall apart. And this is quite boring. So I think we'll just turn the camera off for a minute while I tie this on. It goes on and on and on. So now I have tied on lots of moss with raffia. Personally, I think it's very pretty like this. I'd hang this on my door quite happily. But let's put some more in because we have lots more. So first I'm going to put a lovely big bit of ivy. This is a really big piece of ivy, so I'm actually going to cut it down a bit. And when I cut, I always make sure I've got a nice sharp end so that I can easily get the ivy into the mix. And if you give it a good old shove, you'll find that it will hold really nicely. I'm going to cut this off nice and, see, look, nice and sharp. And then this one can get tucked in. And they might look a bit sticky outy and a bit odd at the moment, but when I've put them all in, you'll begin to see that it's made quite a nice big shape. Because that's quite a small wreath. We can make it as big as we like with as much sticky outy business as we want. And what I'm doing is everything's going in the same direction. So you get you get a feeling of a swirl, which gives it a sort of firmly tidy kind of in amongst the, I want it to look very hairy and exciting, but I also want it to look organised. And so It's not quite a Fibonacci circle, but it's getting there. And now I'm putting in a pop of this brachydlotis. Anybody who knows me will know I love a bit of brachydlotis because it's sort of silvery, but also slightly velvety, very unwilty, extremely happy. So now you can see we've got quite dark green with the ivy, zingy yellow with the box, and silver. It's a really nice mix. Now, these flowers have all been in water overnight, so they're really well conditioned, and they'll be happy in this mix, probably for a day or two. If you have a spritzer, like a thing you'd use for the ironing, then that's a really good way to keep them nice and fresh. Keep the moss fresh. Look how they tuck in really easily. Numbers, because odd numbers make circles, whereas even numbers will make a square or a straight line all the time. And that's enough of those big tulips. Let's have some of these lovely daffs. Look at the narcissi. Ooh, and I've got some nice bay there. Look, the bay is flowering. Have a look at your herbs and all your other shrubs, because arrangements like this are all about detail, and you may not see it from a distance, but up close, isn't that pretty? The little flowering. So we'll tuck that in. But first of all, let's get some more flowers in. I love these little lemony narcissi. Right. So I'm just checking to see if I can see some nice things along the side, and I can. It's looking really, really pretty. And then to give it some a final fling of life, I've got, this is classic common farm flowers. This is called twiggery pokery. It's a technical term. Look, hornbeam coming out into leaf. Isn't that beautiful? Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have fun making one of these, and I'd love to see what you've made. So if you follow us on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, why don't you post pictures of what you've done and tag your wreath, hashtag Georgie's Easter wreath, and we can all share them and admire them and celebrate them and make social media full of flowers, because it's a tough enough time, and if we can have a bit more flowers, then we can all be happier. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Bye. Oops, I almost forgot. I have my director here who reminds me of this stuff. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, and remember to hit the, what's it called, the bell icon, so that you get notifications of future videos, so that we can all make lots of lovely flowery happiness together all the way through the summer.